Hi, I'm Joe DiGiulio, and welcome to another free art lesson. What we're going to be doing on this art lesson today is working on an isolation coat, a way to archivally preserve your paintings correctly. First of all, to get started, I've got a finished acrylic painting, little simple abstract, but I want to preserve it correctly. I don't want the paint film to be exposed to smoke, dirt, soot, pollutants over time. So what I do is I prepare an isolation coat that actually seals the painting. The isolation coat will have a satin sheen. I don't like it too glossy. When it's too glossy, then it's not very good for photographing. And if it's too flat or too matte, then it doesn't have the richness of the color. So I found something that works for me, and that is a little recipe that I've mixed together. And that's what we're going to create our isolation coat with. The products we're going to be using is the polymer gloss varnish, and medium, I use 40% of that. So I just fill up a little container, and this is actually the gloss content. I'm looking for a satin finish, so I'm going to mix 40% of the gloss medium here, and then 40% matte medium. Okay, that makes up 80% of the equation. The other 20% is going to be water. So that way, the water is going to allow it to flow a little bit more smoother, actually self-level a little bit better. So that's about 40% right there. It doesn't have to be exact, but you're getting the idea. Take a little bit of the matte medium, the polymer gloss varnish, and the matte medium together will give us a nice kind of homogenized satin finish. Now, when you first start with this, and I apply it, don't worry if it looks all milky and everything. After it dries, you'll see it'll have a really great look, and it'll have a nice overall homogenized sheen. Not to mention that it's going to be a great protective coating. This recipe is going to be a satin finish that's going to allow you to go ahead and seal the painting, protect it. But that's not the final part. Let me get a little bit of this water. So I got like a 40-40-20 mixture. It's not exact science, but you're getting the idea. You do not want to shake this up. If you shake it up, then you're going to need to go ahead and let it sit overnight so that the bubbles will actually settle out of it. I found that there's little detergents. I'm not a chemist, I don't know exactly what they all are, but it actually effervesces. It makes little bubbles if you shake it up. And then if you go to apply it, these bubbles will go as a fine film layer over the canvas, and then they'll pop. You'll get little pock marks, and that's not what we're looking for here. I'm going to add a little bit more matte medium to this. I think I kind of shortchanged on that. I'm looking for a consistency too, and I found that a 40-40-20 mix works well. Again, just stir it up. I'm not trying to agitate it, but I want to kind of get a milky, creamy consistency. I'm using a little Vermeer number 40 flat brush, and I found that it has a very thick belly to it. It'll hold quite a bit of fluids to it. And I'm not really applying it in any particular direction. Generally, when I do apply an isolation coat, I go up and down, and then I crosshatch, left to right, then north and south, then east and west, if you will. But I put a layer down one way and a layer on the other. And you could certainly do the sides as well. And you'll see that as I apply it, it has a creamy white texture. But don't worry about that. That will all disappear as it dries. The whole point of this is this isolation coat is going to seal that paint film down. As it dries, it'll have a nice satin, very photographic finish. So you're not going to get that light rebound that you would get from a gloss, purely gloss varnish. Now I try to not get it too many strokes in, so I turn the brush more on an angle like that, and I find that's better than if I press down. It seems that when I press down it records the stroke, and I'm looking to try to avoid that. Up and down, back and forth, very simple. Glazing right across the top here. Now, that dries. Give it an hour. You could put another coat on, okay? If you want, put about 3 coats on. That'll thicken the layers. I'll have the underneath layer, the paint film. I'll have the 40-40-20 mixture, the isolation coat. Let that cure or dry for about 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, you'll want to use a turpentine base final varnish. They make it in matte, they make it in gloss, they make it in satin, whatever sheen you want. But this is a varnish that can be removed with a mineral spirit. The point of that is your final varnish. The final varnish that's put on is so that you can keep your painting film saved over the years. You're going to go ahead and use this, let the painting be dried, put that down. And then 15, 20 years from now, when the painting is dirty, and it's, of course, in some great museum, the curator is going to want to be able to clean that painting. What they'll do is they'll just take mineral spirits, and they'll be able to remove this top layer of final varnish. The isolation coat that you put on now is going to be the protective barrier between the final varnish and the original paint coat. What that'll do is when he goes to remove that old varnish, he'll clean the painting, take all the pollutants, all the soot, all of that stuff off, and then he's going to have a nice, clean, almost like it's original state painting that he will in turn re-varnish again with a new clean layer of final varnish. So remember, you've got the 3 layers, the original paint film, you've got the 40-40-20 mixture, and then you've got a 2 week later, you're going to apply the final varnish. Do that, you're going to keep your paintings in archivally safe and beautiful shape for years to come. And if you've been a famous artist, the only artists that have ever been famous are the ones that still have their paintings around. So if you want to be in the mix, make yours correct. I'm Joe DiGiulio. Thanks for stopping in. I hope you join me for my next free art lesson.